You know, a lot of people are wondering, in Washington and outside of Washington, how are Americans going to get to the bottom of the question of what role did Russians play in the 2016 election, and did they collude with the Trump campaign to help him win the election? Well, I think one of the things we've learned in Washington in the last couple of weeks is we're not going to get that answer from the House Intelligence Committee, which is kind of broken down into open partisan warfare. We might get the answer from the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is just really getting rolling on its investigation of that question. And a little bit of confidence was instilled this week on Wednesday when the two leading members of that committee, Republican Chairman Richard Burr of North Carolina and Virginia Democrat Mark Warner, the ranking Democrat on the committee, stood together in the Senate and said, we're going to get to the bottom of this question. Here's how Senator Warner described their effort.
When we started this, and we saw the scope and what was involved, I said it was the most important thing I'd ever taken on in my public life. I believe that more firmly now than even when we started.
So what else did we learn from the two senators? Well, one thing we learned is this is going to take some time. It's not going to be fast. They said they've already asked for interviews with 20 people. 5 of those people have agreed. Those may be followed by public hearings after those private interviews. They said their staff is reviewing thousands of documents. That's going to take some time. And they said they're open to issuing subpoenas for people who don't want to come and talk to make them come and talk. So this isn't going to be quick. The second thing we learned that was interesting was that both these senators think that this is an international, not just a national story. They referred to thousands of Russians working on interfering with computer stories in the U.S. to try to change the way the election appeared here. And Senator Burr referred specifically to Russians doing the same thing right now with an election campaign that's underway in France.
What we, the government, knows about Russia's capabilities and intent, we've pushed it out to those countries that are most imminent to have elections. But I remind you that we're within 30 days of the first French election, 4 candidates. It will go down to 2 candidates with a runoff in May. I think it's safe by everybody's judgment that the Russians are actively involved in the French elections.
So bottom line, it's really important for the Senate to get this right after the House has had so much trouble. It's also important to the Trump administration, perhaps, even though it may not seem that way, because if Congress can't investigate this question and do it effectively, there's going to be a growing call to have the Justice Department appoint a special counsel, somebody from the outside, to look into what really happened. And I don't think the Trump White House wants that to happen.